get you guys to sit down, please? No? If I can get you guys to sit down. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's 2026 primary election candidates debate, hosted by the Carson Valley Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the Record Courier and the Tahoe Chamber of Commerce. We want to thank Douglas County Community and Senior Center and their staff for hosting us this evening, and a special thanks to you as well. We want to thank DST Fiber for their assistance in helping live stream tonight's event so our members of our community can stay informed and engaged. We would also like to recognize and thank all of the volunteers helping make tonight's possible, both those that you see here as well as those working behind the scenes. Events like these take a tremendous amount of team effort, and we appreciate everyone who contributed their time and energy. Before we begin, if you are able, please stand, remove your hats, and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We would also like to recognize the elected officials joining us this evening. If you are serving in an elected position, please stand so we can recognize and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you. And finally, thank you all for you showing up, taking the time to educate yourselves and participating in the democratic process. An informed and engaged community makes Carson Valley and Douglas County stronger. Before we begin, we kindly ask that you please silence your cell phones and remain respectful throughout the evening. We ask the audience members to refrain from interruptions, cheering, and clapping during candidate responses so that every candidate has an equal opportunity to be heard. The emergency exits are located in the rear or pretty much anywhere you can get out. Water is being provided by Carson Valley Health, and the restrooms are located at the entrance where you came in. The audience members, you may submit questions throughout the evening using your note cards and pencils located on your tables, and the volunteers will collect those questions and get them to the moderator. Ladies, could you please stand? Just stand. So these ladies are going to go collect the questions, so as they are going through, you can write those and they will pick them up. So tonight's debate is focused specifically on contested races appearing on the June primary election ballot. Nevada operates under a partisan primary system, and tonight's candidates are those appearing on the primary ballot. This evening, you will hear from candidates running from Douglas County Commission District 2, as well as Nevada State Assembly District 39 Republican primary. We also want to acknowledge and thank all the individuals who have stepped forward to run for office and serve our community. Assembly District 39 candidate Bridget Peterson was invited to participate this evening, but she was unable to attend due to a prior commitment. Several of the candidates are also joining us tonight, and informational tables available before and after the debate. And we encourage all of you to stop by and talk with them. Tonight's debate is being live streamed, and you will also be able to view it afterwards immediately. We also encourage everybody to continue following local election coverage as well as national, including an upcoming candidate guide in the May 20th edition of the Record Courier. At this time, it is my honor to introduce you to tonight's moderator, the Honorable Judge Thomas Gregory. We greatly appreciate Judge Gregory volunteering his time to help guide tonight's discussion in a fair, respectful, and professional manner. Please join me in welcoming Judge Thomas Gregory.
Good evening, everybody. Well, a little bit of a frog there. I'm super excited to be here tonight. to be part of this great event. I know that absolutely nobody is here to hear from me, though, so we're going to jump right into this. The first slate that we have this evening is in reference to Nevada State Assembly District 39. I'm going to invite the candidates who are present to come up and join me up here on the stage. By random draw, the candidates are going to kick us off here with some introductions. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to introduce themselves and offer an opening statement. The first candidate that you will hear from tonight is Brianna Cowan. Ms. Cowan?
Thank you all. I very much appreciate you being here tonight. Adam, thank you for hosting this beautiful event. Tara, for wrangling cats to get us all here. And Judge, I appreciate you moderating this evening. My name is Brianna Cowan. I am a Navy veteran, a small business owner. My favorite title, though, is Mom. And I'm a proud resident of rural Nevada. I'm not a politician, and that's exactly why this district needs me. Politicians created the mess that we are dealing with right now. Unfortunately, Ken Gray left his position as county commissioner in Lyon County, abandoned Assembly District 39, left for a job in Washington, and now he's back with hat in hand, asking for his old seat again. Blayne Osborn has taken money from Vegas special interests, and let's be straight, to a degree, we can thank Ken Gray for Blayne Osborn too. Our rural communities in Douglas and Lyon County have been underrepresented for far too long by insiders and career politicians who put their interests and concerns first. This is why I did the crazy thing and I filed to run myself. I want real change. And if you want real change, that bold devil-may-care movement like Donald Trump, you don't send politicians back to Carson City. You send a true political outsider, a change agent. I am that political outsider, that change agent. Let's unleash real energy, not green energy. Let's make life more affordable. Let's back the badge and stand firm on the solid rock that is our Constitution. Let's take back our house on June 9th, and I will take your voice and ensure it carries weight in the halls of power.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan. I would ask the audience that you hold your applause until the end so that we can keep this moving. Next, you will hear from candidate Ken Gray. Mr. Gray?
Thank you. Good evening. Ken Gray, running for Assembly District 39. Had the honor of serving you guys in 2023 and 2025. I have tried to run this as the cleanest possible race I could, but as you can see, at least one, probably both of my opponents don't want to do that. They're more into the name calling and the you quit. Using her rationale, I guess J.D. Vance quit on his people too to become the vice president. When I was a county commissioner, I was elected to the state assembly because I was encouraged to run for that seat by your sitting assemblyman. When I was in the assembly, I completed both of my statutory requirements in 2023 and 2025 to become an appointee by President Trump. I'm the only one I know of that he's reached out to in this county to tap for a position in his administration to serve my fellow veterans, of which I spent 26 years in the United States Air Force, multiple real combat tours in real arenas where real bombs and real bullets are flying by. I know what it is firsthand to pay that fee. Unfortunately, I had to send many young men and women home in boxes to their families. So I just, that really hits home for me when somebody's claiming that kind of a status when they were sitting on a boat in the middle of the ocean. First and foremost, though, I am not a politician either. I don't even take part in the political retirement system. And oh, by the way, I don't think my opponent mentioned, she's working on her political science degree or PhD in political science, in a form of political science. So if you're not a politician, why the degree? I don't get it. These were not going to be my comments up here, but she left me no choice. So like I said, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I do what I do now because it's a passion. And when I came back, I've got at least a dozen people in this room that'll tell you, I had no intention of running for the assembly again. They encouraged me and pushed me, and it took me, 2 weeks to make that decision. Didn't really, I had an interest, but I had no inclination to do that.
Mr. Gray, your time is up.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we will turn to candidate Blayne Osborn. Mr. Osborn.
Good evening, all. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you to the Chamber and the Record Courier for hosting us. This is a wonderful opportunity and appreciate the chance to be here with you all. I am Blayne Osborn. I am your current state assemblyman. I was appointed in November after the seat was vacated, as has been mentioned, and was appointed during the state or right before this special session that Governor Joe Lombardo called. I'm incredibly proud of my record serving you all during that time. I am here tonight to ask for your vote. I would love the opportunity to go back and continue representing you in the next legislative session. I am incredibly honored to be endorsed by Governor Joe Lombardo, by the Lyon County Republican Party, the Nevada Republican Assembly. In fact, I think of all the candidates in the race, I'm the only one that's received any Republican organization support. I found out yesterday that I was endorsed by the Nevada Right to Life. I've been endorsed by the firefighters. I've earned a tremendous amount of support from all of you, and that to me, more than any endorsement, is what matters the most. So tonight I'm here to ask for your vote and look forward to participating in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for those opening comments. We're going to move now into some questions. Each of you will get an opportunity to answer the question. You'll have 2 minutes to do that. And then each of you will have 1 minute to offer any rebuttal. And I would ask that you try your best to stick to the time constraints. So following the order that we just went through with the opening statements, I'll call on Ms. Cowan first to answer the question, then Mr. Gray, and then Mr. Osborn, and then we will reverse that as we go forward with some other questions. So the first question, what is the greatest challenge facing Nevada, and what legislation would you like to see in the next session to address that challenge? Ms. Cowan.
Thank you for the question. This is an important one. And I'm going to say that one of our biggest challenges is government overreach. And I understand that that is a broad topic because it expands across a variety of sectors. It hinders business, it hinders education, and it hinders your way of life. And I believe in limited government. Specifically, I'd like to focus on education. Currently, Nevada is 42nd in the country for education. This is a failure for our children, for the next generation. It ought to be their birthright that they grow up in the greatest country this world has ever known. They get the greatest education that can be provided, and they can work and produce with their own hands. Unfortunately, our education system is failing our children. I do have multiple degrees. I have a degree in secondary ed, and I taught high school, and I taught in private school for nearly 10 years. And I can tell you, good education, the math, the reading stuff, that's transformative for children. We need to open up our school systems to free market systems, thoroughly empower parents through vouchers, student education accounts, whatever works for parents. Right? So that way we bring those free market principles to our children's education. And we enable parents to decide what is best for their children, absent any and all government interference. If they want to homeschool their children, we should let them, and we should give them the best opportunities possible. If a parent wants to put their kids in a private school, they ought to be able to have the funding through vouchers and student education accounts to be able to do that. It is the birthright of your children and my son to be able to have a good, profound education. And myself, like many of the mothers and fathers and grandparents in this room, this is a deep concern for you. I hear you, and we will fix it in Carson City.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan. Mr. Gray.
Yes, thank you. I'll say that is probably not the most important thing. I think the one thing that affects every Nevadan in this room is energy, specifically gasoline. We are, in Northern Nevada, we are 100% reliant for all of our gasoline to come from California and be subject to their rules, their regulations, and their prices, unfortunately. That's why we're paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 a gallon right now. And I will tell you what I'm going to do, which I don't think my opponent mentioned what she was going to do. What I'm going to do is, I'm already working on it, legislation that will encourage development of energy resources, specifically refining crude oil into gasoline that we can use here in this state, because we need that. That touches everything. That touches the products on the shelves in our grocery stores. That touches our ability to get to and from work. That touches every part of our sector. Everything we do basically relies on energy and gasoline. Right now they're saying, oh, well, we can use the sun's energy. That's a crock. That energy that is being produced, a little of it that is being produced, is being sold to the more expensive market in California. They're using our lands to produce energy for California. One thing that we need to do along the energy lines is we need to mandate that that energy is first sold on Nevada markets so we can realize the gains that they are realizing using our land for our people. Second thing we need to do is encourage the development of alternate sources of energy, i.e. atomic. We need to go nuclear. Europe has used it for a very long time. It is a very safe form, and now that it's gotten to a very small scale, we can use that to meet our energy needs. And oh, by the way, along with gasoline, we can provide energy to the entire Northwest and east of us, and we can be the hub where that we relied on, no longer California. So with that, I am going to encourage that we give those abatements that we've been giving to tech, to energy companies that will affect all of us. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Mr. Osborn, your answer.
Thank you for the question. I'll tell you, I've been out knocking on a lot of doors, probably knocked on several of your doors here in this room, and the number one thing that I'm hearing from voters is election integrity. That is the number one issue still on everybody's mind. What am I going to do about it? Well, I did something today. I filed my first bill draft request, BDR, for the next legislative session to address election integrity by requiring county election staff to verify citizenship against federal data. I am working with both county clerks in Douglas and Lyon. I think we have fantastic clerks here in this area, but statewide, that is by far the number one issue that we are hearing. In Douglas County specifically, I'll tell you the biggest issue is our school district's funding formula. The way the funding formula is working now, millions of dollars have left our rural school districts and gone to Clark County and Washoe County. There are some very easy short-term fixes that we can do in the next legislative session to adjust the hold harmless provisions. The money is budgeted. We just need to get it to our rural districts. Additionally, I've spoken with a lot of our homeowners up in Lake Tahoe, and the availability of fire insurance for their homes is a major, major concern. Those are the things that I am working on as your assemblyman, and hope that you give me the opportunity to show you what we can do to fix those issues in the next legislative session.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move now into rebuttal. Ms. Cowan, you can start first with 1 minute at a time.
Thank you. I am pleased that Ken brought up nuclear energy and petroleum. I served as a nuclear reactor operator in the global war on terror, which was the boat he was referring to, operating in Operation Freedom Sentinel and Inherent Resolve. And I am pleased and honored that we would consider nuclear. It is very efficient. It takes a lot of planning, takes a lot of resources, and at the same time, we cannot wait for those planning and resources while we say, okay, it's okay for you to take $5 a gallon at the pump, right? We need to hold both in moderation and in balance. We need to look at how can we balance the investment of infrastructure, oil infrastructure in the state, while not telling them in 10 years you're going to lose your ability to sell your oil because now we have nuclear power plants. We have to do both. Nuclear power can provide incredible amounts of energy. It's incredibly efficient, but there's a lot of resources that we need to bring to bear, and I'm very pleased the governor is working on this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Your Honor. Absolutely right about education. Our education for our youth has gone in the wrong direction for so long, and I really wish our fourth candidate was up here, because I got to point out she voted in Lyon County to silence parental comments during agenda items during school board meetings. That's why she's no longer on the school board. She resigned in a wave of controversy. I believe parents should be involved in every step of their child's education, to the point that they even, they choose the curriculum the child is going to receive. The other thing that's wrong with our educational system is we gear our education towards every kid going to college. Not every kid's fit for college. Not every kid wants to go to college. Not every kid has the aptitude to go to college. We need to focus more on career and technical education, which I've been a huge part of, bringing in like the Star Academy into Lyon County. We need to look at other avenues. Like most of you, we probably know more millionaires that made their money with their hands than they did with school books. That's just a fact of life. I mean, we need people producing things again.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Mr. Osborn.
Sure. The only rebuttal to what's been stated previously that I would mention is that I believe in the free market. I believe I would never say that solar is a crock. I think infrastructure needs a lot of work, and we're making those investments. By far, electric vehicles are the future, and that saddens me as a classic car kind of guy to see internal combustion going the way of the dodo bird, but the electric vehicles are very impressive and continuing to get better and better. I'm for all of it. I'm especially for geothermal in this state. Solar, wind, as the free market continues, as investments in this kind of infrastructure advances. I think look at what Mr. Musk has done. We're making incredible strides in all of these areas, and so I support all of these avenues to get us more in energy independence and to end California's monopolization on gas prices.
Okay, thank you for your answers to that first question. We're going to move into the second question. And for this one, Mr. Gray, you will answer first, then Mr. Osborn, then Ms. Cowan. Again, 2 minutes first, and then a minute of rebuttal. The question is as follows. School districts throughout Nevada are struggling financially. Declining enrollment is certainly one factor. Some also point to the 2019 decision by the state legislature to shift the pupil-centered funding plan as another factor. As our assembly member, would you take a leadership position to address flaws in this funding plan, and how? Mr. Gray.
Yeah, the pupil-centered funding, as we can see, has been a total disaster. We've given the school districts and the education system in the state more money than they had actually asked for at this point. They got over $2 billion. It is, I think, the second or third largest expenditure in our state. One of the things that I will really push for is to get administrators off the books. We need more teachers in the classrooms. We don't need administrators like they've got in Carson City and I'm sure other school districts around the state, deputy superintendents for diversity, inclusion, and equity. How does that improve your child's education? I want my kid to be able to read and write when they get out of school. That is the one foundational thing that they need to be successful in life. They can be successful without social studies, without math, without any of those things. If they can read and write, though, they can be successful and stand on their own 2 feet. The pupil-centered funding plan has hurt our school districts. The only thing we should be basing school district funding on is actual enrollment. If your enrollment decreases, your funding should decrease. We've seen that a lot throughout the state. But this has just been a scam to divert funding towards Washoe and Clark County school districts, which I've been a big proponent of breaking up the Clark County school district as well. That is it's an abyss of money and administrators. The other thing that people are tending to miss on this pupil-centered funding plan is how much it's hurting special education students. Right up here at the lake, I've talked with parents who were scrambling to try and find ways to get their kids educated because they were losing their special education instructor. That's not right. These kids deserve a chance as well, and they need that additional amount of funding to ensure that they've got a leg up. So I will push for those changes in our school districts.
Thank you. Candidates, before we go further, it's my understanding that some folks in the back are having difficulty hearing each of us. So I would ask that all of us project the best that we can so that these folks can understand and hear what you are here to inform them on. Mr. Osborn, your answer.
Thank you. That is a good problem to have because this room is absolutely full. So appreciate everybody that's come here tonight. I guess I jumped the gun a little bit. I already started addressing that in my previous answer. We've talked a lot about the per pupil funding plan. I think, first of all, we have to acknowledge that the districts are taking ownership. Douglas County School District has cut $4.5 million out of this budget cycle. Lyon County District has cut about $2 million. One of the things that's come out of this, and there are going to be some silver linings, one of the things is Douglas has realized they had a surplus of school buses. They've started selling those school buses off. Douglas County has realized we probably need to have a dedicated chief financial officer in this. These are all things that I've discussed with Governor Lombardo's administration. We are already working on this. As I mentioned previously, I think there are some short-term solutions. In the per pupil funding plan, there is a rural weight. That is supposed to benefit the rural school districts. Currently, that weight is too low. We need to negotiate that weight higher, but we can also address the hold harmless provision. As I mentioned previously, the dollars are already budgeted for the district. They didn't hit it because of the declining enrollments. The hold harmless provision is 5%. Had there been a 5% loss in student enrollments, the district would have seen no cuts to the budget. In Douglas, that loss was 4.75%, and that is the closest any rural district has come to hitting the hold harmless provision. That is a very easy short-term solution that we can go into the next legislative session and address. I believe that with my relationships with the legislative majority, with the governor's office, with our school districts, that I am the right person to go in and get that done next legislative session.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Cowan.
Thank you. My concern here is that we're addressing how to fix the funding with the public school, which is certainly something that we need to do. Blayne addressed several of those key and critical issues. My concern, though, is that we have thus far focused on what we're going to do to prop up the public school system, and we've not discussed how we're going to empower parents with their children's education. Students do not belong to the government, to the school district, to the county. They belong to their parents. And at the state level, we need to impact rightful legislation that empowers parents for whatever education choice deems fit. And yes, that means that the public school system may lose some funding because parents are going to put their children in other places. So be it. Power belongs to the parents, not to distant bureaucrats in Carson City, not to teachers' unions, not to administrators, none of that. They belong to parents. And every one of you who have children, this is a deep concern of yours. You come home and you want to know, what is your child being educated with? What are they learning? And if you have no other option but the public school system, we are failing you as legislators. We're abject failure. That is not an option for this next generation. And so we need to look at provisions that enable school vouchers, student education accounts, so that parents can decide if you want to put your child in public school, wonderful. We'll make sure that the public schools, have the needs met. If you want to put them in a charter school, absolutely, mom, dad, I've got your back. If you want to put them in a private school, let's do that. Right? The parents and the children belong together. Children are not wards of the state. It's not our children, it's your child, and that's the way we need to keep it here in this state.
Mr. Gray, you may rebut.
Thank you. I actually agree wholeheartedly with Ms. Cowan. I would like to take it a little step further, though. My opponent to my left, talks about being a conservative Republican, but yet he advocates a new position, a new government position to be created, for the school district to, watch their budget. I mean, who's doing it now? Why do we need to create another position? Also, he advocated for free market in other areas. Ms. Cowan's right. I agree with her wholeheartedly. There should be a free market. We need charter schools. We need micro schools. We need Montessori schools. We need parochial schools. And by the way, the separation of church and state does not apply there. Those are our tax dollars. We should be able to decide where our kids are being educated and have our tax dollars funneled towards that institution. That will make our schools infinitely better if they have to compete for that dollar and not just know that dollar is going to be there. And, oh, by the way, if they spend more, they can ask for more. We need to encourage free market in our education system so we can start turning out our number one resource, our kids, to compete on the world platform.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Osborn.
Yes, hiring a chief financial officer is a pretty radical position to take, so guilty. I will say, in addition to my service in the legislature, I also get to represent you on the Nevada Infrastructure Bank. And so I appreciate Ms. Cowan's points on that. I'm happy to say that I was able to vote. The first vote that I took on the State Infrastructure Bank was to match $15 million in Nevada state funding with $85 million federally in order to build $100 million worth of new charter schools in the state of Nevada. We are doing the work. We are going to be able to support the public districts, but also support your right as parents to choose the best educational path for your children. Thank you.
Ms. Cowan.
I believe I gave my rebuttal in my response. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will move then on to the third question, and we'll start by having Mr. Osborn answer it. You'll see there might be some crossover with some of these topics. I have a feeling you might have mentioned already what this next subject. The question is, what's one bill draft request you would submit to help better the lives of those who live in Assembly District 39? Mr. Osborn.
Yes, I did mention it because I submitted that bill draft request today addressing election integrity. Along those lines, though, and I'm hopeful that this bill is going to have several points within it, one of which is addressing automatic voter registration through the Department of Motor Vehicles. If you've had any contact with the DMV lately, you know that any time you do anything to re-register your vehicle or renew your license, you are getting mailed a few days later a new voter registration card from your county clerk. This is an incredible waste of taxpayer dollars. This was not the intent of the ballot question that passed with motor voter. We need to be able to go to the legislature and reform that in the next legislative session. I think I have incredible support to be able to do that. Again, we are lucky to live in Douglas County. Our county clerk, Amy Bergens, has done a terrific job here. She and I have had a couple of conversations on this and are working together to make sure that we are protecting your vote, cleaning up some of these issues, and along with that, figuring out that Election Day should be Election Day, and that the election should not continue a week later, 10 days later, we're still counting votes. That is not at all what the intent of our founders was. We have drifted pretty far from that, and we need to be able to fix that. That is my proposal for the next legislative session, along with several of the other ideas and bills that we've talked about tonight, fixing the per pupil funding plan, helping our homeowners make sure that they still have the ability to purchase homeowners insurance for wildfire. Those are the kind of things that I am looking to do in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cowan.
I think there's a lot of important issues. Mr. Osborn certainly addressed a critical issue and one that frequently is addressed here in this county, and that absolutely needs to be addressed. So to not belabor that point, which I agree with him on many of that issue, much in all of that issue, I'm going to talk about our veterans. In District 39, Lyon and Douglas County, we have 11.5 and 12.5% veteran population respectively. And we have yet, I believe, to meaningfully provide funding for our veterans. For instance, several legislative sessions ago, and the number of that bill leaves my mind. However, it was required that there be someone to field resumes that come into that office from veterans to allow you to find a job. For all of the state of Nevada, there were two, one for Northern, one for Southern. Now there's currently one. Tell me how all of the veterans in this room, how you would find meaningful support from one person in that office to help you find a job. Our homelessness and near homelessness, our rising suicide rates amongst veterans, and our rising drug problem amongst veterans needs to be resolved. And so I believe we need to look at meaningful funding to restructure a lot of our veteran service officers to provide a network of support for our veterans, because they are some of the most American-loving, hardworking individuals that we have in this state. And it is, a failure of government that they should be left behind when we can look at meaningful funding, restructure several of our veteran service officers, and provide a network of support in partnership with private organizations who can better reach out and better provide service and care to our veterans. And this is something we need to meaningfully address immediately.
Thank you. And Mr. Gray.
Thank you. I pretty much already covered my number one topic, but my number two topic has been absolutely been taboo, and I don't know why, for almost every politician in this state, but you may have heard my ads on the radio. I am going to take a stand against it. I'm going to introduce a DMV bill that will, one, mandate that we stop issuing driver's licenses or driver's privilege cards to illegal aliens. Why are we giving them the thought that they are here legitimately by giving them something that's not supposed to be used as an ID, but is being used as an ID, and giving them a license, which isn't supposed to be a license, it's supposed to be a privilege card? We're adding legitimacy to something that legitimacy should not be added to. They should not be here, they should not be driving, and oh, by the way, it's a safety issue. How many commercial accidents have you heard of already? How many accidents of just people driving sedans have you heard of already? We should not be doing that. Second thing this bill is going to do is it's going to, excuse me, I lost my train of thought. It's more of a caboose of thought. It's a DMV bill. It's going to address the registration for electric vehicles that my opponent seems to like. Right now, electric vehicles, you know how much they pay to use our roads? Nothing. And they are so much heavier than the vehicles that are out there. They do more damage to our roads. They're an environmental, they're a driving environmental hazard from the time they are created until the time they are, have outlived themselves. It's crazy that they're allowed to use those roads for free, and we have to pay for it, the brunt of it. We're paying, at the fuel tank, and oh, by the way, they can go to a lot of government places and charge their car for free. So not only are they using the roads for free, they're not even paying for the fuel to do that. And I got news for you. They're not recharging on solar energy. It's still petroleum products.
Right. Mr. Osborn, you may rebut.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that point. And one, I'd say I appreciate both the ideas of my opponents here, and I look forward to working with them in the upcoming legislative session to get those passed. Just on the electric vehicle point, I would bring up the fact that the solution that my opponent is proposing would violate the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, which he signed. No new taxes or fees. That is one that there absolutely needs to be a registration fee put on electric vehicles to help cover the funds for the Highway Maintenance Fund. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Osborn, maybe rebut?
Ms. Cowan.
Sorry, I'm Ms. Cowan.
Miss Osborn's at home, yeah.
Thank you.
Unless we're talking about Blayne's mother, beautiful lady over here. Well, I would just add to what my opponent said as far as illegal immigrants. Yes, let's not give them voter privilege cards, but let's work with our federal and local partners, ensuring legislation is passed and get all illegals out of the state of Nevada. Either obtain your citizenship, assimilate, or get out.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gray?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Cowan, your naivety is showing again. We have no control over immigration at the state level in any way, shape, or form. That is a federal issue, and a federal issue only. And oh, by the way, it's not a matter of getting citizenship. It's a matter of just being here legally. There are lots of people here that are here legally that aren't citizens, nor are they ever going to be citizens. So you might want to brush up on that. Great 100,000-foot view, though. With regards to the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, as far as I know, I'm the only one that signed it at both the state and local level. Last session in 25, when I had this idea, before I even was getting to the point to introduce it, I checked on it. No, it is not a violation because it is not a tax. It's an assessment on just those vehicles. It's not a wide-ranging tax. And oh, by the way, if I really wanted to make sure, all I would have to do is find an offset for the same thing. And I've got plans to address both of those because after having signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge and abided by that pledge since I was first elected in 2017,
Sir, your time is up. Thank you.
I've never violated it.
All right. We're going to move to question number 4, and this one, Ms. Cowan, you will be answering first. Should data centers in the state have environmental regulations?
Yes. Yes. I want to address real quick with my 2 minutes of time from my opponent. If we look at states all over the country, those states actively are trying to prohibit their law enforcement officers from working with our federal partners to deport illegal immigrants. So it's not naivety. We do have a lot of control with respect to how we fund our police officers and the laws we allow them to enact and to enforce. And so that's where I'm coming from. I'm not sure why he's angry
Ms.
about
Cowan, I'm
deporting
going to
illegal
interrupt.
immigrants.
Each of the candidates has a set amount of time to answer the questions and to rebut, and we ask that you stick to that and not go back on other topics. If you want to give up your time as to this question, you're free to do that. Otherwise, please go ahead and answer the question.
And to further on data centers, yes, we need protections. I think that it'd be absurd to say, let's allow huge data centers that drain water resources, that take up a lot of resources that we need as far as water specifically, that go to pollute our groundwater, pollute our environment, and have no regulation upon them. Yes, it is good that we're bringing in jobs to the state, but they need to be held to the same standards as other businesses. They need to be held to a high standard to make sure the safety of our residents here in the state of Nevada.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I think that's an easy question. Yes, there should be environmental regulations that are applicable to them. If you've actually been to a data center, though, these days, the newer ones, you'll find out that the water really is not the issue. Those are closed-loop systems. They lose a minuscule amount of water, and that's through evaporation through the cooling process. And most of them are currently running, their water is currently effluent. So it's actually a legitimate use for effluent water because we can't put that back into the system for people to use unless it goes through what's called RIBS and a whole bunch of other processing. So it's actually a great use for it. The real problem with our data centers is the amount of energy they take and the demand they put on our infrastructure for energy. That's where we need to focus our regulations and our eyes looking at that to make sure that that those energy demands can be met and they can be met safely without jeopardizing the other residents in that area or that are attached to the grid. For those of you that know anything about our distribution grid, I'd like to say it's a disaster, but that would be a compliment. So we have really got to start looking at that, especially with the amount of energy these things take. Unfortunately, they're here to stay. Whether we like them or not, they're here to stay, especially as we look to AI computing and once we get into quantum computing, that takes even more energy. So we've got to really start looking at that in those contexts. I don't think the actual environmental, on the newer ones, the environmental impact is all that great. The older ones, absolutely. I mean, they were just discharging water. They were using huge amounts of water. But let's focus on the real problems at hand now, and that's the energy. And I would encourage anybody and everybody that has an interest in this topic to get out and go to TRI, and they will give you a tour of their data center, and it's actually amazing. And they will discuss the water usage and the power usage with you. So thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Mr. Osborn.
Yes, thank you for that question as well. Yes, this is another area where we are in agreement. In fact, I am in support of a moratorium on data centers until we get into the next legislative session and can amend the Nevada revised statutes. One of the things that I'm already working on with Commissioners Keller and Hendricks over in Lyon County is some proposed legislation to try to give commissioners more ability to be able to deny data center applications as they receive them. There's some wording within the NRS that they feel they need changed in order to have the ability to do that. My opponent is absolutely correct. The issue with the data centers is how much electricity they're drawing. I was able to meet with the Nevada Rural Electric Association a few weeks ago, met with their representative up in Wells, Nevada, and they have a data center proposal there that would take 3 times the amount of electricity that is supporting their system currently. And so the only ability that they would have to support that data center would be to bring in a new power plant, a new generation station in order to support that data center, and it would drastically raise everybody's electric rates in that area of the state. So we have some major data center concerns at the moment, but this will be something that we address in the next legislative session, guaranteed.
Thank you. Ms. Cowan, your rebuttal?
Your rebuttal.
Your rebuttal?
I
if
have
you'd
no
like.
rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gray?
I agree.
Yeah, no, actually, I agree with Mr. Osborn. They are, these data centers, where they're putting a lot of them are a blight right now. And being that we are in a Dillon's rule state, not a home rule state, the state legislature will have to grant the authority to the counties to decide whether or not these places go in. And the other dirty little secret along, same thing with electric vehicles. The dirty secret is our federal government and governments are subsidizing these data centers. And that, again, needs to stop. So we need to stop and take an entire look at the big picture. And I think a moratorium is actually a pretty decent idea.
Mr. Osborn, anything further?
No, thank you. I hope to earn your support in the upcoming primary election.
Okay, moving on to question number 5. Mr. Gray is going to answer this one first.
Oh, I'll ask it.
If you would like to make up the question, you can do that. No, you can't. How will you influence the legislative majority?
Oh, it's not how will I, it's how have I. There is a candidate up here that says I've not gotten anything passed. I've got a list over here at on the table. It'll show, I think it's 25 pieces of legislation and bits of legislation that I have gotten passed. The only way to do that is through working with the majority. Some of the things I've done, I've gotten things inserted into legislation that they've had. One of the ones that actually affects our county or our district is the Tahoe lane diet, where they wanted to limit it to 1 lane each direction. So I couldn't have a more polar opposite politically than Senator Daley in the Senate. I actually worked with him to actually get it put into law that they cannot reduce the lanes to one lane each direction. Aside from all the other reasons, it's a safety issue. We can't do it. Another thing that I have worked on in this past session was AI child porn. How many of you guys knew that AI child porn was not a crime? Yeah, it was not a crime until last session. I am not above working with the other side for good legislation. I worked with Senator Cannizzaro, another polar opposite, to actually make it illegal to generate, distribute, whatever applies to AI child porn. You cannot produce CSAM or have CSAM. You will be penalized the same as if it were real. Their justification before was it's a First Amendment issue and there's no real victims. I'm sorry, all the studies out there show that if you view CSAM, you're 80% more likely to actually offend. That needs to be a crime. And in working with the other side, I got it passed that it is a crime. Going forward, I don't see any change in that. I have got some very good relationships. I do want to emphasize, I have never and will never compromise my conservative values to get something across the line. It's not about, for me, it's not about getting something across the line
Thank
in
you,
my
sir.
name.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Osborn.
I appreciate that question. I hope you all got to see a small glimpse of that during the special session in November. I think we had a subset of Republicans and Democrats that worked together and were able to pass in a bipartisan fashion the governor's crime bill, the governor's health care bill, the governor's school safety bill, as well as reject the film tax credit bill. And so please, I would invite you to look at my record during the special session, examine those votes. We have, and it's something that I take a lot of pride in. I agree with my opponent. You never compromise your values, but you can come to compromises in that building. I've been fortunate to work in the Nevada legislature since 2009. I have incredible experience as staff working with members on both sides, and I'm also grateful to be endorsed by so many of my Republican colleagues in the Assembly and in the State Senate. And so in a political environment where Republicans are not going to be in the majority in the state assembly, I will say I'm working very hard to change that. I'm raising a lot of money trying to work with several of our candidates down in Las Vegas in order to flip some of these seats because we need more balance in the state legislature. Thank God we have Governor Lombardo's veto pen. And so we're working together on a lot of these things, but throughout the legislative session, about 90% of the bills are unanimous votes. There are many opportunities where we can work in a bipartisan fashion without ever compromising our values. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Cowan.
I agree with my opponents that we never compromise our values. We are in an R+40 district, and your voice has been loud and clear in defense of conservative, constitutionally sound policies. I will ask you, however, how has your life benefited since the politicians to my left here have been in office? Have your real wages increased? Has inflation diminished? Has gas prices gotten better? Is it easier to find a job or buy a home? Is the education for your children gotten better? How has your life benefited since the politicians to my left been in office? I'm not a politician. I'm not afraid to say what needs to be be said. And yes, we need to work with our colleagues to ensure good bills are passed, like the child porn bill. That's a good bill, and thankfully it passed. But we will not compromise. We will not maintain the status quo, because the status quo for you has been decline. And you're asking for something different, and that's why I'm here. We will end the decline.
Thank you. We can move then into rebuttal.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cowan. Ms. Cowan. I would say, yeah, your life probably has not gotten better, but I don't think that has anything to do with either Blayne or myself. The majority party is the one setting the tone. As for the 95% of the bills that cross bipartisanly, that's only because they do not allow any debate on those bills, and only the bills that make it to the floor are the ones that the speaker himself knows are going to pass. There's only been one bill since I've been in the Assembly that has not passed, and that was AB 105, and the speaker did, I don't know why he brought it back, but he brought it back 4 times for 4 failing votes. I will tell you, I think your life is better from some of the stuff I've done. You in Douglas County School District, if it weren't for me and being the fighter that I am, but also being able to work across the aisle, you would have transgender bathrooms in Douglas County School Districts right now. That was stopped by me. I am never ashamed to get up and stand up for what's right, and I will do that continually.
All right, thank you. Mr. Osborn.
Thank you. I'll say there's a difference in putting your name on other people's bills and getting your own bills passed, so just throwing that out there. I'll say this, I've had the honor of representing you since November, and during that 1 week in the special session, we passed incredible bills. I mentioned the crime bill. That bill cracks down on crime, increases penalties for assault, battery, DUI, smash and grab crimes that we're seeing in California and in southern Nevada, increases safety for the Las Vegas Strip and everywhere else. That is a bill that was supported by our sheriff, Dan Coverly, and the Lyon County Sheriff, Brad Pope, and I am very, very proud to have voted yes on that bill to help support those gentlemen in their roles, giving them the tools they need to help keep our communities safe. So I think your lives are improving, and that's what I try to do, because this is my home. I am blessed to live here with my wife, and I want our district to be the very best in the state. Thank you.
Right, we have some time for questions from the audience. And so this next question, we will start by having Mr. Osborn answer first. It is for all of the candidates, and the question is, specifically, what distinguishes you from each of your opponents? No general answers, please. It's a tough race.
I appreciate that. I'll say there's a lot of things that distinguish me from my opponents. First, I'm the only native Nevadan running in this race. I am fortunate enough and just blessed to live here and to have grown up here. When we were talking about the Douglas County School District, the first proposal to consolidate school districts would have shut down Scarcelli Elementary and folded it into C.C. Manili. Scarcelli was my elementary school a long time ago, but not that long ago. And so I appreciate the experience that I've had being able to grow up here, to be able to live in the district, and to be able to go through our Douglas County School District. I think those experiences provide me with unique insight to the challenges that we're facing today. As I mentioned previously, I am grateful to be endorsed by Governor Joe Lombardo, but I'm also the only candidate endorsed by any Republican organization in the state. These are important things when you're running in a Republican primary. I am also, my opponents sometimes point out that I was not able to serve in the military. I don't know how many of you know, but I had to undergo a scoliosis surgery as a junior at Douglas High School, and so I had to find other ways to serve. After graduation in 2008 and 2009, I started working at the state legislature, and so I have by far more legislative experience as staff, as an advocate for our rural hospitals, and now as your assemblyman. I think all of these things provide me with the experience, the knowledge, the relationships to be able to go in and deliver victories for you in Carson City. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cowan.
Thank you. I think my background is very unique. I'll start out with my education experience because it's been brought up. I hold 3 bachelor's degrees in criminal justice, political science, and secondary education. I have a master's degree in public and global policy from the Thunderberg School of Business Management, T-Bird, and I'm currently working on my PhD. I'm not a doctor yet. On my dissertation is on the constitutional implications of the post 9/11 expansion of the security state. Prior to being in the Navy, where I was a nuclear reactor operator, I was an educator for nearly 10 years in several different private schools. I'll say it was the honor of my life to serve this country, this great, beautiful country, in the United States Navy. I did that for nearly 7 years, as I said, as a nuclear reactor operator, and on my shore duty, I had the honor of working with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that if there were a nuclear reactor accident, we would be prepared homeside. And so this is a field where accountability is an absolute, where there is no room for failure, and I was honored to be part of that 1% of 1% in that field. Currently, I own a government affairs firm, and we stand as a watchdog against progressive government overreach. And I know for a fact I'm the only mom on this stage, so I'm not the only parent, but I am the only mom, and that is my most proud and distinguished title, like many of the moms in this room. And I look forward to supporting our Constitution, defending our way of life, and I'd be honored for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Gray.
Thank you. 26 years in the United States Air Force taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about leadership, taught me about how to stand up when things are wrong and use my voice to make things right. It taught me about real world leadership in tough positions. And oh, by the way, I think I did that quite well. I was in the top 1% of the enlisted force as an E9. For those of you guys that don't know it, by law, it's the military, the E9s are relegated to 1% of the enlisted force. It is not easy to make. I actually made it in 17 years. I worked my butt off defending your rights, defending our country, working overseas, and doing the things that had to be done in real world situations to defend our rights, not just theoretically, actively. I don't know where else to go. I have got a lifetime of experience. I raised my kids here in Assembly District 39. My daughters went to Scarcelli when we first got here. I know what it takes to defend and to make our country better, not hypothetically, actually. I've been there, I've done that. I've also got 2 sessions in the Assembly with a very proven conservative record. Nothing either of my opponents here can stand here and say. You can crow all you want about the special session. One thing you forgot to mention there, Mr. Osborn, though, was you mentioned how very hard, this was in Silver Springs, it's on the record, how very hard it was to stand up against the Hollywood handout bill. If that was hard, what are you going to do when there really is a hard bill? Because that bill was by far one of the worst bills I've ever seen. I fought against it in 23 and 25. That would have done nothing except take money out of our taxpayers' general fund and put it in Hollywood pockets. There was absolutely nothing good in that. You said it was because the governor wanted it. I don't work for the governor. I work for you guys. There are 3 separate and distinct branches of government, and I don't give a damn what the governor wants. I'm going to do what's right on behalf of you.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Mr. Osborn, any rebuttal?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'd say I never said it was hard because the governor wanted it or I had to stand up against the governor. I was actually very proud to stand up against the governor because I didn't think that bill was right for our district. That is what I will always do as your assemblyman. Now, the reason that it was difficult to vote against that bill is I appreciated some of the arguments that the proponents made. It was going to bring 4,000 jobs immediately to Las Vegas. Nevada is still recovering from the pandemic and still has one of the higher unemployment rates in the country, although that is falling quickly, and I give all credit to Governor Joe Lombardo for the work that he's done to address unemployment. One of the things my opponent keeps bringing up his record, I think when you dig into it, you start looking at some of his scores from CPAC, Turning Point USA, Americans for Prosperity, 80, 81, 82, in that order. Those are not very conservative scores. In fact, Turning Point USA labeled my opponent as losing patriotism in the last legislative session. We can do better.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cowan.
No rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
That's pretty funny because NPRI rated me as their rising star in my first legislative session. I've never seen a Turning Point scorecard, so I don't even know what they addressed. And I don't do what's right for my score. I do what's right for you guys. Again, I'm not rolling over for special interests. I'm not taking special interest money from Vegas, from Reno, having, $2,500 plate fundraisers. I'm doing my stuff right here in this district because it's you guys that matter, not the outside agencies. To that end, I am not seeking any politician's endorsement in this race. Why? Because every darn one of them has let me down somehow, some way. I have got the endorsements of almost every single agency that represents almost every single law enforcement officer in this state. That's important to me. They know what I've done for them. It's wrong. And with the Hollywood handout bill, the return on that investment, it was nothing. There was not a boon. The jobs were a short-term job, and our return on our investment on that was
time is
less
up,
than
sir.
1-to-1.
I would like to get one more question in from the audience, but to do that, you're going to be limited to only 1 minute in response and no rebuttal. But I just want to get in one more question here. And Ms. Cowan, you will answer this one first. For over a decade, the Democrat-dominated legislature has killed efforts to fund vouchers for schools. You will be in the minority if you win. How will you actually do what you want?
That's a great question, and that is true. The Democrats are beholden to special interests. However, politicians play political games, no surprise, right? And it is incumbent upon your legislature, now I'm talking super fast because I got 1 minute. It's incumbent upon your legislators to inform you when good bills do not get a hearing, such as vouchers or student education accounts, and when there's a failure of our Democrat colleagues to give good bills and hearings, which they often do, they'll just put it to the side and they won't give it a hearing. That's the time we go to you and you inform your legislator, or you call other legislators and say, it's time for this bill to get a hearing. And then if they fail upon that point to give that bill a hearing, we allow the electorate to know, so the next voting process, we get them out of office and allow good bills to get hearings.
You came in right under a minute. Mr. Gray.
It's not that we need to get more funding for charter schools and other schools. It's not that we need to get them funded. We have them now. We need to work on other things along with that to support them, like school buses, things to actually get those kids to those programs. Because the other side likes to play games. They will say, oh, we funded charter schools, but we didn't fund a way for you to get there. So we need to work more on, making sure that the support services are there for those kids to get there. It's rather naive again of my opponent to stand here and say that, yeah, if they call, then they'll give it a hearing. Mr. Osborn knows this. He's been there since, what did you say, 2014?
2009.
And I've been in that building since 2006. People like Brittany Miller, you can ring her phone off the hook all day. You can stand in line in the hallway. If she doesn't want to hear a bill, she's not going to hear a bill, especially something like voter integrity, where the speaker himself said, we will hear no Republican-sponsored bill on voter integrity. Doesn't matter how much you kick or scream or threaten, because
Thank you,
they're
sir.
just
Your
the one
time
that
is
votes
up.
for them.
Mr. Osborn.
I appreciate the answers of my opponents. They're both correct in some avenues, and I would disagree with them. In others, I would say Ms. Cowan is absolutely right. We can always do more to put pressure on the majority. in an attempt to get those good bills heard. School choice, for example, is one of these 80–90% issues that people generally support. And when you look at the children that benefit the most, it is the inner city kids that are often represented by the Democrats in the legislature. So there are, in my opinion, many places where we can work with them to try to strive for some common ground. I'll say one of the effective tactics that we used in the minority in previous legislative sessions was to hold our own hearings on bills. Hearings with the press, hearings with constituents, and be able to, get the ideas out there and in front of people that aren't just in a legislative committee.
Thank you, candidates. We are going to move into your closing statements. Each of you will get 2 minutes to wrap things up. We will start with Mr. Gray, then Mr. Osborn, and then Ms. Cowan. Mr. Gray.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm running a little bit different race than my opponents here. As you will see, they both attacked me in their mailings, in their verbiage. I've done my best to not attack them publicly. Tonight, I did let some loose because I think it had to be done. It's you can only take so much for so long. But I am the guy with the record here as a conservative. My opponent had pointed out with regards to legislation, well, yeah, it's good to get your name on, or you can get your name on other people's legislation. You know what? I don't care if my name is on a piece of legislation. One thing I learned, a life lesson I learned early on in the military, is it doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as good things happen. I've lived my life that way, and I will continue to live my life that way. I will tell you the names that my bills were on as a sponsor or co-sponsor. That wasn't just putting my name down as a sponsor or co-sponsor. That was having valid input into that. Again, I don't care if I have anything in my name. I really don't. I'm not there to get bills passed in my name and bolster up my legacy. I'm not a politician. I am Ken Gray, father, husband, veteran. And to that end, I will always work to what's in your best interest. And that's all I have to say tonight. And I hope I earn your vote on June 9th. Thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Osborn.
Thank you all very much for being here tonight. Thank you again to the Chamber and to the Record Courier for hosting us here this evening. I'm Blayne Osborn. I am your state assemblyman. It is the absolute honor of my life to be able to work for you and represent you in Carson City. I am here tonight to ask for your vote, and I am asking for your vote 4 Tuesdays from yesterday. Or if you already received your mail ballot, I would love for you to check my name. It's 3rd on the list. I am incredibly proud of the work I've been able to do in a very short time for you, but also things like in previous legislative sessions, working to bring a level 4 trauma center right here to Gardnerville. Congratulations, Carson Valley Health, on getting that done. I have a very good record, a very conservative record, and that is why I'm being supported by Governor Joe Lombardo, by the Nevada Republican Assembly Caucus, by the Lyon County Republicans. These are our friends, our colleagues, the Republicans, the elected officials that we trust, and they are trusting me to continue representing you. That is incredibly humbling. I promise I will never go into that building and let you down. I would love for you to give me the opportunity to continue representing you. And you can learn more at my website, BlayneOsborn.com, BlayneOsborn.com. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Ms. Cowan.
Thank you. I echo the sentiments of Mr. Osborn, who thanked the Record Courier and the entire team of people who were scampering around here hours before any of us arrived to make sure chairs were set up and make sure that this was a comfortable venue. And I thank them sincerely for their commitment to free speech, their commitment to having and hosting this lively debate. And I thank my opponents for also being here. Folks, this race comes down to one simple question. Do we keep sending the same kind of politicians who created the problems, or do we finally send a true political outsider who will fight for solutions? As I mentioned before, Ken Gray left us. Blayne Osborn took Vegas money. The insiders have had their turn, and they've left Douglas and Lyon County underrepresented. I'm not a politician, as I have stated. I'm a Navy veteran, a small business owner, and a mom. and I'm tired of watching our rural conservative values get pushed aside. I'm the political outsider this district has been waiting for. I will bring discipline, I will be held accountable to you, and the Nevada First attitude to Carson City every single day. On June 9th, I'm asking for your vote so we can finally put Nevada first again. Thank you, and God bless you.
Audience, thank you for your courtesy as you listened to these folks without interruption, and you withheld your claps and applause as I asked you to do, so thank you. But now it's time to give these folks a hand. Thank you so much.
Your Honor, thank you.
We're going to take a break of about 10 minutes, and then we'll start up with the Commission District 2 race. Thank you. Okay, folks, please go ahead and have a seat. And I'm going to invite the candidates forward for Board of County Commissioners. Take your choice. Okay, folks, we're trying to keep this on time. Please go ahead and have a seat, settle down so we can get going. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to get started with the next slate, which is Douglas County Board of Commissioners, District 2. We have two candidates, and I'm going to invite both of them to introduce themselves at this time. We'll start first with Sharla Hales. Each of you get 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the many of you who have called, emailed, texted, caught me in the grocery store, or stepped outside on your doorstep to chat with me. These conversations are important. They matter. Caring listening is the first step in good government. The values of Douglas County guide every decision I make. Protecting rural character, using taxpayer dollars wisely, and solving problems responsibly. Your concerns are my concerns. You want slowed down growth, and you want to preserve our rural way of life. You want roads that are safe and maintained. You want traffic relief on Highway 395 from Minden and Gardnerville downtown, and you specifically want Muller Parkway to connect to 395 North. If you're in Johnson Lane, you're concerned about impacts from trucks from Painter Rock Mine, and you're concerned about well water. That's also a concern in Ruinstroth, along with stormwater flooding. At the lake, evacuation planning and public safety are priorities. Many of you are concerned about the stormwater management utility fees now under discussion. I want to continue hearing from you on that. Many of you are concerned about housing costs for the workforce in Douglas County. These are serious issues, and they require independent leadership focused on residents, not the special interests of developers or self-interested others. They require leadership that listens carefully and works hard. Tonight is an opportunity to discuss accomplishments, challenges, my vision for the next 4 years. If we miss the thing you want to talk about, please come find me afterward or call me. Public service should be accessible, accountable, and transparent.
Thank you, Ms. Hales. Ms. Moss.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you being here tonight and giving me the opportunity and my opponent the opportunity to talk about what means the most to us. Douglas County needs leadership that follows the rules, respects private property rights, and answers to the voters. As a Douglas County employee for 24 years, and I've lived in Douglas County for 31 years, I know how county government works. And as a community development director and floodplain administrator, I was responsible for consistently applying the regulatory standards and laws that govern community planning and infrastructure planning. That was my job, and that's the kind of experience I can bring to the Board of Commissioners if elected. As I have stated many times during the campaign, my priorities for the county are to protect our rural lifestyle by supporting smart planning that reflects our adopted master plan and preserve what makes Douglas County special. Spending taxpayer dollars responsibly, prioritizing core needs such as road maintenance and public safety without adding new debt. Protecting open space and floodplains by maintaining conservation easements that safeguard our quality of life. Implementing practical policies that respond to growth and housing challenges identified in your master plan and require growth to pay for itself. Protecting Lake Tahoe environment and ensuring the quality of life for our residents is maintained through strong and enforceable vacation home rental code standards and adequately fund services impacted by tourism. And then preserving our water resources by identifying current and future demands of water usage that is accountable and sustainable for today and in the future. Thank you, and I would appreciate your vote on June 9th. It's time for change of leadership.
All right, thank you. We will move into the first question, and Ms. Hales, you will answer it first. The question is, what is your top priority for the next term?
I have to start this by saying a lot of my top priorities are either accomplished or well on their way to being accomplished. To be honest, the thing that weighs on my mind most is the Muller Parkway litigation, and I have a lot to say about that. There may be a question about that, though.
There will be
There will
questions
be.
about that, yes.
Okay. I want to see, there's probably a question about stormwater. All the things I want to see accomplished, there's probably a question about. I will say that I like talking to you and hearing from you, and it's important to me what your concerns are. And so my top priority is to continue working on your concerns. A lot of those are long-term that can't be fixed overnight. For instance, Painted Rock Mine is a big concern to me, the trucks. And we did a lot by passing that agreement. It includes days and hours of operation limitations on NOx that otherwise would be nowhere found in the permits or the environmental analysis. We have worked on those, and the federal agencies that actually have jurisdiction and have teeth and authority to do things have adopted those restrictions, many of them from our NOx agreement. There's a lot of other things that I plan to do. For instance, get trucks off of East Valley. Next year, a public lands access grant opens up, and I want to apply for that and get better safety by getting recreational vehicles and pedestrians off of that road. I want to get more data from the monitoring agencies into the hands of our residents there so they'll actually know about water quality, air quality, amount of water that NOx is using. So this is one example. Your
Thank you.
concerns are
Your
my
time
concerns.
is up. Ms. Moss, your response.
Thank you. My top priority is infrastructure funding, whether that's for roads, for floodplain management, or stormwater management. It includes all of that. And what that means is that the revenue that we collect is probably not enough to fund these programs. The county is moving forward with a stormwater utility. I think it's going to be adopted at the end of this month. So you will see new bills on your tax bills in July that have a line item for stormwater utility based on where you live and if there are capital projects considered for your area. So be aware of that. On the floodplain management side, the county has failed on floodplain management when it comes to building Muller Parkway, and we will speak to that when there's the question on Muller Parkway litigation. Muller Parkway was built through a primary flood zone, and the county has presented no flood mitigation at all, no stormwater mitigation at all. And something needs to change. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hales. Any rebuttal?
Sure. The county has a balanced budget. The county's building Justice Center with no new taxes. The county's building Muller Parkway, no new taxes. We saved up for that. That's going to be a blessing to have a little bit of traffic reduced off of the main road. The 2019 development agreement does not obligate the county to any drainage whatsoever. And in fact, a year after the 2019 development agreement, Park Ranch Holding provided a plan to the county that said, hey, look at these two big areas, they're floodplain. He knew he should accept water, he intended to accept water, and he only changed that when he filed a lawsuit trying to get more than he bargained for originally.
Ms. Moss, rebuttal.
That is contrary. Those statements are contrary to Judge Hardesty's ruling, facts of finding. I will quote, in the preliminary injunction to stop the construction of Muller Parkway that was considered by the judge found that any design or construction of Muller Parkway must be in accordance with applicable provisions of Title 20, the Development Code, and the Douglas County Improvement Standards. Finding C, he also stated the Muller is planned for drainage improvements alongside road construction to address regional issues, but it appears that the current construction of Muller Parkway does not include drainage, infrastructure, or detention ponds, and may not be in compliance with the development code, such as adverse impact or the standards for improvements, period. That's my response. The judge has said the road is not built to standard, period.
May I have a response to that?
We are going to move into question number 2. And Ms. Moss, you'll be answering this question first. Does Douglas County have an affordable housing problem? What role, if any, should the county play in housing?
Thank you for that question. The county has no affordable housing program. There are provisions in the development code that provide some incentives to the developer. If they provide, quote, affordable or workforce housing within their projects, they can get some density bonus units, but they also have to restrict those properties to an affordable home based on income. And it has to be done for 15 years, and it's based on the certain amount of income, median income. So the county has those provisions. It's not enough. There's nothing to really force a developer to provide workforce housing. What the county can do is with their Title 20 update, they can require a developer to put in certain number of affordable units within their projects. That can be done. Also, the county can provide other incentives, can look at allowing more accessory dwelling units that provide affordable units for your family members or students, that kind of thing. So the code needs to be looked at. The Chamber of Commerce has a housing working group working on that right now to look at ways to promote affordable housing across the board, and I've asked to be part of that working group. Also, to other ways to help affordable units is to look at the permitting process and the fees that are associated with building permit or development itself. Maybe we give them a break. The question is whether or not the developer will pass that break on to the new homeowner, and that's yet to be decided.
Thank you. Ms. Hales.
On the campaign trail, I've heard loud and clear from you that this is on your mind, a concern. Businesses, schools, sheriff's department, healthcare entities uniformly tell me that workforce attainable housing is one of their biggest, if not their biggest, challenges. To be clear, this is not a problem that the government, county government, can fully resolve. But I agree with my opponent. There are things that we can do that can help bring attainable workforce housing to the right places without county subsidies. First, get government out of the way. We are not fast enough at processing permits, and we are doing two major things to fix this. Software improvement, which is in a rough transition right now, but we'll get there, and a Title 20 update that will make it easier to work through the building code. Ideas of things we can do: defer the building permit until certificate of occupancy. We can establish a factual basis for the types of houses we need, and then, I agree, require that of developers when they bring projects to us. We can preserve our community's character by allowing the next generation to stay here with attainable workforce housing in the right places. I agree that this is a problem that needs to be solved by a lot of minds and expert industries working on this together. I am pleased with the Chamber of Commerce Committee, and this will be a focus of mine in my next term. At the end of my comments here, I guess I would just ask this question of my opponent. Of the many houses, I think about 2,000 that she recommended for approval in her 11 years as Community Development Director, how many of those were attainable workforce housing?
Ms. Moss, you may rebut.
Thank you. The only project that I'm aware of that had workforce or affordable housing is Arbor Gardens, and that was done as part of a overall single-family residential project, and that developer got density credits, as well as he restricted those properties to affordable households based on median income. And let me answer this question. I cannot dictate, per the code, where affordable units go and how many are going to be out there. I cannot tell a property owner that you have to build it. That's the issue. It's not something I had anything to do with. So that question is essentially not understanding how the development process works at the residential side, and what they have to what property owner has to meet.
Your time
per the
is up.
code. Thank
Ms.
you.
Hales, rebuttal.
Yeah, it's inconsistent to say, on the one hand, that we can write into Title 20 that a developer has to include a certain amount of attainable housing, and then say, I don't have any control over private property. That's all I have to say on that.
Right. The next topic is indeed Muller Parkway. And we have two questions. One is directed at Ms. Moss, and she'll get a chance to answer that question. 2 minutes time. Ms. Hales, you will have 1 minute to rebut it. Then we have a specific question for Ms. Hales. She will have 2 minutes to respond, and then Ms. Moss will have 1 minute to rebut. So the first question on Muller Parkway for Ms. Moss. You have been critical of how the county has handled the Muller Parkway project. What are the primary reasons?
Thank you for that question. The primary reason is the transportation plan that's adopted by the county requires that Muller Parkway be built to an urban collector standard. What that means is it has 2 lanes of travel, curb gutter, sidewalk, catch basin or drop inlet, underground drainage, and then you take that drainage out away from the road and it collects somewhere based on the historic flow. The existing road has nothing like that. It has 2 lanes, a bicycle lane, and shoulders. No roadside storm drain, no flood mitigation, nothing meeting the code. That is why, in 2025, I submitted a declaration to the court to support the injunction which would stop the construction of Muller Parkway because it did not meet the county's code requirements or the design manual. And I can speak to that in another question. I had to do that. I'm obligated to do that as a former community development director and floodplain administrator that regulated those requirements. I was obligated to do that because I wanted to save the taxpayer money. I did not want to see money spent and then further down the line, the road would have to be rebuilt, tore up, or redesigned, and then it would cost taxpayers more money.
Ms. Hales, you may rebut.
Well, it's absolutely ludicrous to say you saved the taxpayers' money by saying they had to put in amenities to a development that those amenities are only needed for the development. So you cite the transportation plan as requiring certain amenities on a road, but in fact, the transportation plan is a plan. It's like our master plan. It's like our fairgrounds plan. It's a vision for the future, not a current requirement. The Muller Parkway is a rural road built to a solid rural standard in a rural area. It is not built to an urban standard because it's not in the urban service area. It would be ludicrous to put curb, gutter, sidewalk in when there's no development to serve on the road. The gutter would field water to nowhere. There's nowhere to put it.
All right, thank you. We are going to move to part 2 of the Muller Parkway question, and this one is directed at Ms. Hales, and Ms. Moss will have a chance to rebut. What do you see as the path forward to successful completion of Muller Parkway?
Vigorous defense of the lawsuit. That road is built to the appropriate standard. There is no standard listed in the development agreement. There is no drainage requirement in the development agreement. The county is holding up its end of the bargain. We will vigorously defend against a meritless lawsuit that was filed to leverage getting more taxpayer dollars to build amenities for the development. And I will tell you that my opponent voluntarily provided sworn testimony for a developer against the county. If you add up what she advocated for in court, it comes to $70 million. That is more than the Justice Center. That is more than the stormwater utility if it were funded for 30 years. These are massive expenses that my opponent has never said how she would pay for. This was voluntary testimony. She was not subpoenaed. And her assessment of the situation is contrary to the county's engineers, to the county's consulting engineers, to District Attorney Mark Jackson's office and their assessment, and to our consulting attorneys and their assessment. The county is following the contract. I'm confident the county will prevail in the lawsuit. I just want to say also that my opponent's testimony creates a conflict of interest. So from now on, my opponent's testimony creates a conflict of interest. From now on, she has to choose. A woman cannot serve 2 masters.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, your rebuttal.
So it's clear that Ms. Hales has no idea what the transportation plan responsibility is, or the county code, or the design manual. The design manual has to be followed. If you have an urban collector, there is a detail in the design manual that tells you what that road is supposed to look like. So the county has failed in that regard because their staff has not enforced that and have shied away from that for whatever reason. I don't know if it was a board member, county manager, or somebody else that influenced the staff or the county in general to make that determination that it meets the urban collector standard. Did you not hear me read what Judge Hardesty said? He's already had facts of finding stating that the county is supposed to meet those standards. In terms of the testimony, I never testified to a court. I submitted a declaration, a written declaration in support of the injunction to stop the construction based on my experience.
Your time is up. Thank you. We're going to move into another area, and it is similar in terms of how it is set up. The topic is county fiscal year 26-27 budget. The first question will be directed to Ms. Hales. She'll have 2 minutes. Ms. Moss will have 1 minute to rebut. Second part of it will be directed to Ms. Moss, with Ms. Hales getting an opportunity to rebut. So, Ms. Hales, it seems the county has had a tough time balancing its budget for 26-27. What are the principal reasons for this?
Well, I would disagree with the assumption. The budget is a process. We spend 4 days every year whereby all the departments come into us and they account for what they've done with their money the past year, and they explain the changes they want in the upcoming year. We do that early in the budget process, and we scrutinize every department's spending, and we scrutinize the new expenses. Through that process, they get feedback from us on what we're going to cut. And this board is committed to a balanced budget. At this time, we have a balanced budget. We do not spend more than we have. We spend on needs, we cut out wants. So we went through the process, we ended up with a balanced budget, and I'm proud of that.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, your rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, maybe some of you don't know this, but NRS does require a balanced budget by the county. And so in order to do that, the county, because 2 months ago, the revenue was less than the expenses, it was off by about 1.2 million. And as they went through the budgeting process, they ended up evening that out. But NRS requires it to be a balanced budget. So in this case, the county could have cut services or other programs in order to balance that budget if they needed to. In this case, they did not. So when my opponent says we approved a balanced budget, it has to be a balanced budget in order to send it to the state. That's a law, and the county would have to figure out how to make that balance.
Okay, the next segment is directed towards Ms. Moss. What revenue sources, if any, do you think the county is leaving on the table that might help improve its budget outlook?
So there was a lot of discussion during the budget hearing about moving monies, actually taking money from Peter to pay Paul. And that was the stormwater program versus the roads maintenance program. The roads maintenance has suffered for the last probably 5 years with the construction of Muller Parkway. The money had to be set aside for that construction. Those revenues could have been used for road maintenance. You live in the neighborhoods, you see what's happened to our roads. There's a failure from the county side in accepting roads for maintenance and then not maintaining them. So the revenue, they moved around, and thankfully, if the stormwater utility goes through, which they haven't budgeted yet, they've taken money out back to the road maintenance, there will be more funds within the road maintenance fund to care for roads, and that's positive. And the county changed that taxing schedule for road maintenance so they can capture more revenues. The taxes don't go up, but they can capture that for roads maintenance because that's a priority from the residents that I've talked to. That needs to be done.
Thank you. Your response.
I don't know that I have much response. I believe the county did a very good job putting together its budget this year. It's the process that we went through. I'll say that we paid for the Justice Center with no new taxes. We paid for Muller Parkway with no new taxes. The stormwater program was never funded. It needs to be funded if it's going to continue operating. That solves a whole bunch of problems. It solves money for roads. First of all, it solves public safety. And it takes care of the county financially because we're at risk in two ways. Or we spend money in two different ways. when we don't have this stormwater program funded. One is, in Johnson Lane, when we were sued, the county settled for $1.3 million. Only $800,000 of that went to stormwater prevention. The other remainder, 600-ish, went to attorneys. We're going to pay for stormwater one way or the other. We might as well make it responsible and do it up front and use the whole money efficiently.
All right, thank you. Your time is up. The next topic will be handled similarly, and it is in regard to county community outreach. The first question is addressed to Ms. Moss, and Ms. Hales will get a chance to rebut. Ms. Moss, do you see a need to improve the county's community outreach? If so, and if elected, what additional strategies and practices would you advocate?
Thank you for that question. In terms of community outreach, the county does okay. There are areas that could be improved on. People that I've talked to are concerned about the stormwater utility and the information out there, and I tell them where to go to look for that information, and I explain to them what that process has been. They feel they've been kept out of the loop. So some of that is online, some is that available within the stormwater management department, but overall, they don't know exactly where to go to find information regarding their topic. If it's regarding social services, I think social services, the information on the internet is positive and good, and it provides a lot of information. But for some of the other functions of county government, there's not a lot of information available. And you have to go back and forth between one topic and another topic to finally get to what you need to find. So in terms of the internet, I think the county's website could be improved on. I think involving ourselves in the Business Council and the Chamber and what their programs are, I think that's a good way to provide information to the public and gain information from those agencies, because their focus is on, business retention, economic issues that are related to businesses as they come in, the permitting process, that kind of thing. So I think that is one way that we can improve on.
Thank you. Ms. Hales, your rebuttal?
Sure, yeah, you will find a lot of information on the county's website, and one of the places I like best there is Major Projects and Plans. If you click on Major Projects and Plans, you'll see a long list of topics, and you go into those and you'll find everything you want. For instance, Muller Parkway, click on Muller Parkway, then click on Muller Parkway Standards, and you will read how the county is exactly meeting the design criterias and the standards for that road. Regarding the stormwater utility, last fall the county held about 12 different workshops out in all the neighborhoods. I went to most of those, where we invited people to come in and we shared exactly how it would work and a ballpark idea of what the fees would be. The fees are ending up lower than we thought they were going to be. Oh, my time's up.
The time is up, but actually you are getting into an area that works well with the next question anyways. And it is directed to you, Ms. Hales, and then Ms. Moss, you get a chance to rebut. Do you think the county can improve its community outreach? As an example, do you believe the county's outreach related to the stormwater utility fee has been satisfactory and effective?
Yes, the county can always do more. We want to reach out, but like I said, we had so many workshops out in the neighborhoods, and it's been, I appreciate the Record Courier. It's covered many, many articles on stormwater, and it's very, very transparent on our website. You can read everything about stormwater on our website. I will say that I've knocked a lot of doors, and I talk about stormwater when I do that. And I'll tell you, my phone number's public. It's on my cards back there. Or I try to be very responsive. Mr. Durso's in the audience, and he and I have had a great exchange about stormwater. Can we do better? Yes. Have we done a whole lot? Yes, we have done a whole lot on stormwater in particular. The other things that we've done on community outreach, when we adopted our strategic plan, can you hear me okay? Okay, good. When we adopted our strategic plan, I made sure we embedded in there better communication. And one thing that we've done is before and after every single board meeting, we have an email that goes out. The first one is called Board Buzz. You can sign up for it on the website. The first one tells you what we're going to be talking about. The second one tells you exactly what we chose to do or what we said about that topic. And I will tell you they quote commissioners. And oftentimes I've read it and I've said, I should write down what I say before I say it, because sometimes you wish you were more articulate than you actually are. I will also cover one other thought, and that is emails from commissioners. There are pros and cons to doing emails from commissioners, but I've done some as a candidate, and they've been very, very well received. And I am believing that I should continue that into my second term because of the positive response I've received on those.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, your rebuttal.
Thank you. So because the emphasis on stormwater utility and the outreach for that program, I would tell you that the county has tried to get out into the community and get the information out there. But what I hear from residents going door to door is that the county is just steamrolling this over us. They don't care what we have to say. They don't care that we're going to be taxed more. They just want to fund the stormwater utility so they can go forward with their flood mitigation programs that they've looked at doing for decades. And what I tell them is that what I ask them to do is come to the board meeting, speak when you can, submit public comment, and give your voice out there to the board members. And what they say to me is that they're not going to listen, they don't care, and they're frustrated. And so there's a lack of public trust in the process. I don't know what the
Your
answer...
time is up.
Okay.
We have 2 questions from the audience. I'd like to get to both. So the way we are going to do that, you will each get 2 minutes to respond and no rebuttal. And Ms. Hales, you will answer this question first, followed by Ms. Moss. Was the Justice Center a good use of $60 million of taxpayer funds? Why or why not?
The founding of our nation, the preamble of the Constitution, states, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, and it goes on from there. Establishing justice is a core service that a county needs to provide to its people. Providing justice is a local government obligation. In the current courthouse, I could refer to Judge Gregory to wax eloquent about the deficiencies of the current courthouse. We don't have the safety procedures in place, the security. We have defendants, the accused waiting in the same areas as victims. We don't have places for child witness interviews to be done sensitively and carefully. We don't have adequate judge security. Even bigger than that, we don't have space for all of our sheriff's needs. He needs more space than he has. That building was built in 1980 and it was intended to last 20 years. We had 19,400 residents then. 45 years later, we have 50,000 residents. It was inadequate. By moving the courts over, we free up space that our sheriff Coverly needs to adequately maintain public safety for all of us, which we appreciate so much. I will tell you that the size and the design of the Justice Center was arrived at after stakeholders met twice a month for a year. We made sure that every single inch is well and carefully planned, and all taxpayer dollars are carefully used wisely for multi-purpose reasons to get the most out of that building.
Thank you. Ms. Moss.
I don't disagree that there's a need for a justice center. There are space needs and all the other needs that my opponent has identified. I don't disagree with that. But what I disagree with is how the board set the priority of a justice center before building Muller Parkway, the first new road in over 40 years, without going forward with bonding to ensure that that road would be built properly. The county could have bonded for it. It could have been built already in that section and built to county standards. They could have waited for the Justice Center to happen. Now we have, 50, I hear 60, but the last I heard was 50. Maybe it's gone up to 60 million in terms of the cost. We have a 20-year bond and a 10-year bond. Do you know that your property taxes get set aside every year over $1 million to pay off that bond? You could be doing the same thing for a new road that meets the county standard and meets floodplain mitigation. But the county didn't design it that way, didn't allow the design to happen that way, and disregarded all provisions of the design manual. They're your staff, that's your board. They made that decision, and that decision was wrong. So my position is they should have prioritized Muller Parkway first, bonded, held off on the Justice Center, and then move forward with it.
Okay, we will move to the final question. Ms. Moss, you will go first in answering, and then Ms. Hales. Each of you get 2 minutes, no rebuttal. The question is, with our budget maxed out and bonding ratios at max, tell us how we actually fix our roads. Thank you.
Good, that's a really good question. The Board of Commissioners has been asking about that for years. And how do you fix that, and how do you come up with new revenues? Well, the county did try some years back in increasing the gas tax, and essentially that failed. The diesel tax failed for roads, but the one tax that was approved was a tax on new commercial development, of all things. That there were 3 choices to make, and so that was the only thing. That was the only provision that passed. So the county has tried that. Carson City had been successful before they built 395 through Carson City. They dedicated funds for 25 years. There was a sunset clause on it to build that bypass of 395 around Carson City, 580. They were successful. They got grant monies. They worked with NDOT. They worked with the feds on moving that forward. And they were so successful, the county should be looking at Carson City and how they did that. Before Douglas County built Muller Parkway, they could have considered something similar to that, a tax just for that purpose, or the question is whether it's a tax just for road maintenance, because that's where the county has fallen behind. 200 miles of roads, and the county does not maintain all of them and has nowhere close the amount of revenue to maintain those roads over time. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hales.
If the stormwater fees pass, that frees up 1.1 million that was taken from roads in 2018. That 1.1 million can go back to roads. I support the current board's action to permanently allocate 0.055% of property taxes to roads. What this does is a dedicated funding source for roads that's tied into part of your property taxes already would be designated to roads. It wouldn't be an increase, it'd just be a permanent designation. And so as property taxes increase, the amount going to roads would increase automatically. We have 74 miles of regional roads. 84% of them are in good to fair shape. 16% are in poor or very poor shape. When we take this 1.1 million annually from that is no longer needed for stormwater, it will go a long way to fixing our regional roads. Also, we can add to that the money we're no longer saving for Muller Parkway because we saved up all we need for that to build to the appropriate rural standard. So with that money, we should be able to take care of our regional roads. Local roads, to me, is a different matter. I believe you get to choose the level of road condition you want to drive on. There are some areas of our county where there is no local road assessment. In the towns and the GIDs, there's a local road assessment, and they take care of local roads. As a guiding principle, I do not believe residents who pay for local roads already should pay for local roads in other neighborhoods. If those neighborhoods want to improve their roads, they need to figure out, do we want to do an assessment district? They can vote on that. They can pass that. Their road condition is totally up to them.
Thank you both. We're going to move into closing statements. Each of you will get 2 minutes. We'll begin with Ms. Moss.
Thank you. It's time for a change in leadership, because leadership must be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. You need to know where your money is being spent, and leadership must be accountable to the decisions that are made, good or bad decisions. Allowing the construction of Muller Parkway without following the adopted transportation plan for an urban collector and the required design manual and the required storm flow and flood mitigation was the wrong decision. Leadership is listening, identifying problems, formulating solutions, then taking action to improve our quality of life. Not responding to residents' complaints on enforcement of the truck traffic coming from the Painted Rock mine for almost 2 years is not acceptable. Leadership must follow the adopted master plan, required design standards, and other adopted codes. The board cannot arbitrarily choose to ignore the law just because they own the land, such as a conservation easement or a right-of-way, or if they do not have the funds to complete a project consistent with county code, such as Muller Parkway. In September 2025, I submitted a declaration to the court supporting the injunction against the county to stop the construction of a substandard road, Muller Parkway. As a prior community development director and floodplain administrator, I had an obligation to notify the court that the county was wrong to allow the construction of any road without meeting adopted codes. I submitted the declaration because it was the right thing to do, and it was necessary to save taxpayer dollars. I commit to being a leader which will restore public trust by listening, caring, creating solutions, following the law, protecting private property rights, and representing all of Douglas County residents. Vote me on June 9th. Thank you.
Ms. Hales.
What I heard Ms. Moss say is that she would rather have spent your money putting the bells and whistles on a road to Parks Development than she would build the Justice Center that has integral piece of public safety for you. Is that your priority? I will tell you, I will always put the residents first, not the developers. She has cited a court document saying it proves her position right, but I'll tell you what, she was trying to get an injunction, and guess what? The judge did not order an injunction. That language she read to you does not represent what she thinks it does. Many of you have told me about the first time you saw Douglas County, and I remember mine coming over Kingsbury in 1989, and I saw this valley, and I thought, this could be home. It reminded me of where I grew up on a farm. I want this valley to look like that, and I will work for you to do everything I can to keep growth slowed down, to protect Douglas County from greedy developers. I have worked hard to solve problems. The Justice Center, if we had waited, we never would have been able to afford it. We have built most of Muller Parkway with no new taxes, and if you think there's a problem with the road, I invite you to go drive on it and look at it. Is it the appropriate real standard? I think you'll say it fits right in with the other roads in similar situations in our county. And in fact, it's similar to other roads Ms. Moss has approved. This election comes down to a simple question. Who will put residents first?
All right,
I
thank
ask
you.
for your
Your
vote.
time is up. Let's give these candidates a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending here this evening, both remotely and in person. I just want to give a quick thank you to the Chamber, to the Record Courier, and go vote. Good evening, folks.